With 11 weeks of NFL football now in the rearview mirror, it's beyond appropriate to talk about the NFL power rankings heading into NFL Week 12. And man, like I say, each and every week, there is a fluctuating type of thing when it comes to this. It's based on returning players or injured players, things of that nature as two potential matchups, people who are dealing with starting quarterbacks being out, different injuries, things of that nature. That all plays a role in these teams being placed where they are. So with all that being said, before I get fully into my NFL power rankings heading into NFL Week 12, make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And with that being said, let's talk about these NFL power rankings. Really, for the bottom 5 teams in the NFL, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, all those teams, you could really rotate them. But I think it's beyond justifiable to say that the Titans are the worst team in the league. The record that they have right now, still only having 1 win heading into Week 12, is beyond atrocious. And this team is just a definition of a cluster. And I believe Cam Ward still has a lot of potential, but the franchise overall is a mess right now. So they deserve to be there. And for me, I mean, you can flip 30 and 31 if you want to. I have the Saints at 31, even though they had a good win over the Panthers a couple weeks ago before their bye week. But I mean, I still don't believe that they're a good team, and there's not a lot of inspiration there. But Tyler Shough had a good game against the Panthers, and then at 30 we have the Las Vegas Raiders, and we saw that type of butt whooping they had against the Dallas Cowboys. They just look very uninspired. They were one-dimensional, and you can't be one-dimensional when first and foremost your quarterback in Geno Smith has more interceptions than touchdowns this season. And just overall, they're abandoning the philosophy of what Pete Carroll does in terms of running the football, only running the ball 7 times in that match against the Cowboys and dropping back, I believe, 42 times. That's beyond ridiculous. So the Raiders are at 30. At 29 we have the New York Jets. They've got a couple of wins now too, but it's beyond appropriate to say that this team is just directionless. And right now Justin Fields got benched too, so Tyrod Taylor, he'll be starting in Week 12. They just have a long way to go in terms of restructuring that franchise. But so that's where the New York Jets are. And at 28 we have the Cleveland Browns, and Shedeur Sanders looks to make his first start in Week 12 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, he didn't have a great game when he was put in after Dylan Gabriel was injured due to a concussion in that Ravens game, and they only lost by a touchdown. But still, there was a lack of preparation in terms of the rapport with Shedeur and the starters and stuff like that too. Not with a full week to game plan and stuff like that as well. We could potentially be seeing Shedeur have a really good first start, hopefully. But overall, collectively, the Browns aren't a great team. The biggest bright spot for them is Myles Garrett, who had a 4-sack performance in that matchup against the Ravens. So that's insane, but they're still not a good football team. At 27, we had the New York Giants. Of course, they fired Brian Daboll a couple of weeks ago. Jameis Winston actually played pretty solid in that matchup against the Packers. Unfortunately, though, he ended up throwing an untimely interception, which led to the Packers winning the game in the second half. But we acknowledge that this team still has a long ways to go. Injuries has kind of hampered them in terms of Malik Neighbors getting injured early in the season. Cam Scatterbu as well too, and they're without Jackson Dart right now due to him being in concussion protocol. So they have some pieces for sure, offensively, even defensively as well too, but they don't have the consistency, and that's why right now they have a 2-9 record. And at 26, we have another team in their division in the Washington Commanders, who they're still dealing with the injury of Jaden Daniels. They lost a heartbreaker in overtime against the Miami Dolphins after Marcus Mariota threw an interception on the first play of overtime. They're dealing with a lot of injuries as well too. Terry McLaurin has been out a lot of this season as well, and just right now this team is having a super down year, and a lot of people expected regression out of them this year, but it's been beyond of what a lot of people expected, especially with Jaden Daniels missing some games too. So they're at 26. At 25, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's been obviously a very up and down season for them. Jamar Chase is going to be suspended for the next game in Week 12, so that hurts them. And ultimately, they're trying to bring back Joe Burrow for this Thanksgiving game against the Ravens. We'll see if they even have a season to play for at that point, because it's already tough in the AFC. We have a lot of unexpected teams at the top of the AFC, but also a lot of wild card teams who formerly in past years have been some of those top teams as well too. So to say that the Bengals can possibly get back into the playoff picture, I think that's almost impossible to say, but you never know. But right now, they're ranked at 25. At 24, it's a team that I would probably say is one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL this year. Right now, the Atlanta Falcons come in at the 24th spot, and this is a team with a lot of promise. They still have a lot of weapons. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, all players to that nature as well too. But right now Drake London is hurt, and Michael Penix Jr. is essentially out for the season now. He's on IR. They're going to be starting with Kirk Cousins, and this team is 3-7. They had a win earlier in the year against the Bills. A lot of people were saying that, hey, this Falcons team, they could potentially be in the mix, but every single year we see it. This team has a lot of talent, but they still underwhelm over expectations, and that's even before Raheem Morris was a head coach. So something has to give with this organization. I mean, we know that they've had some solid years, especially when Matt Ryan was a quarterback. They made the Super Bowl and ultimately should have won Super Bowl 51, but we all know what happened. They ended up choking that lead to the Patriots. But overall, I mean, this franchise is just one that a lot of people saw promise for, but they've been bad this year. At 23, we have the Arizona Cardinals slightly ahead of them, and they've had some moments too as well. They've lost a lot of one-score games, and not necessarily in Week 11 because they lost to the 49ers 41-22, but we recognize the talent that they have with a Trey McBride. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be out for a second straight game though in Week 12, so they're dealing with a lot of injuries to that nature. And I mean, it seems like an apparent end, an inevitable end is coming between the Arizona Cardinals organization and Kyler Murray after this year, so we'll see what happens there. But right now, this team, they currently have a 3-7 record as well, and they are just going in the opposite direction of what a lot of people would expect them in terms of the type of talent that they have on both sides of the football. At 22, we have a team that's really elevated. At one point of this year, when I was doing these power rankings, the Miami Dolphins were at 32. Right now, they're at 22. 2022. So shout out to them for really playing better and inspired football. They have a 4-7 record right now. They obviously won't be a playoff team most likely, but shout out to them playing for Mike McDaniel. And like I've said in previous videos, I think that he could be possibly coaching into keeping this job as well. They're just trying to get things right. I mean, we'll see what happens beyond this year though, what the franchise decides to do, especially with Tua Tagovailoa, things of that nature, the contract that he's at. The Miami Dolphins, they put together a couple of really good games, especially in week 10 when they upsetted the Buffalo Bills at home. At 21 though, we have the Minnesota Vikings, a team that was one of the best in the NFC last year, has dealt with a lot of regression, especially at the quarterback position. And let's just be honest, JJ McCarthy, since he started games this year, even though he's missed time, he's just not been great. He's thrown an interception in every single game that he started this year. You've seen the frustration from players like a Justin Jefferson, playmakers like Jordan Addison not getting the ball at the clip he's supposed to. Justin Jefferson also having career low numbers in result of the quarterback play as well too. So right now it's just tough for the Minnesota Vikings. They lose a couple more games and you can basically cancel Christmas in terms of them making the playoffs for this year. But McCarthy is going to have to develop. And right now the Minnesota Vikings are currently one of the lower teams right now as they have a 4-6 record. Talk about another team at 20 with the Dallas Cowboys, who they only have 4 wins, but they are 4-5-1. Ultimately, that tie that they have with the Green Bay Packers in week 4 could end up helping them in terms of if they're able to go on a run and make the playoffs. We saw how disruptive that defense was in the matchup against the Raiders, although be it, yes, it's the Raiders who, like I talked about a little bit earlier, they lack offensive competency right now. But let's give credit where it's due. I mean, you have to play your schedule, and Quentin Williams, he made an absolute instant impact for that Dallas Cowboys front, alongside with Kenny Clark, also Odigizua, having starters return like a DeMarvion Overshown, Logan Wilson making his Cowboys debut, Savone Revel, the rookie, making his debut too as well. And we all know their offense speaks for itself, one of the top 5 offenses in the league. High scoring, George Pickens playing at a high level, CD Lamb, them two being the best wide receiver duo in the league, and Dak Prescott playing like a top 5 quarterback this season. It just goes a long way in terms of what this team can do when they play complementary football. And they have a tough stretch, as we all know. They play against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 12. Thanksgiving, they play against the Chiefs. In the game after that, they play against the Detroit Lions. If they're able to go 2-1 or win all 3 games, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Dallas Cowboys are able to go on a run and potentially make the playoffs. And I don't think it will be unreasonable at all to say that this team could be 10-6-1 or 11-5-1 when all things are said and done, because 7 years ago we saw a familiar thing happen with the Dallas Cowboys. After them being 3-5 in 2018, they went 3-5-1. So I believe the Dallas Cowboys, they have a real opportunity to show what they're made of, and make no mistake, they are for sure a talented football team. Let's see if they're able to get things right together. And they're ultimately playing for Marshawn Nealon, so they're playing inspired football. And I think it's safe to say as well, Brian Schottenheimer has done a great job in his first year of being a head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get into the 19th ranked team, and this team actually plays against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football to start things off for week 12. The Houston Texans, their defense is playing great, man, and obviously they struggled against the Titans as they won on a game-winning field goal, but nevertheless, I mean, Davis Mills was starting, so we understand that. It's going to be a tough game for them for sure, I think, against the Buffalo Bills. But with that being said though, the Texans have one of the most disruptive defenses in the league. We saw the Texans actually beat the Buffalo Bills at home last year. Obviously CJ Stroud was starting though, and he's going to be out for this game because he's still in concussion protocol. But I believe this Texans team, they have an opportunity to also make it back in the hunt to potentially be a wild card team in the AFC too. I mean, a lot of things have to get right. I believe that CJ Stroud needs to be back in week 13 for that to become a reality, and then they go on the run. But right now, currently sitting at a 5-5 record, they played themselves into playing some solid football over the past few weeks. Their losses have also been close losses as well too, so it's not like this isn't a really good football team, and they're very inspired. And D'Amico Ryans is doing a great job. Number 18, talk about another coach that's doing a great job, Dave Canales. The Carolina Panthers are doing an amazing job. No one expected them to be 6-5 right now. They have a really intriguing matchup in week 12 on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of people before the season would have said that that's a cakewalk game for the 49ers, but absolutely not, because this team is playing great. Bryce Young is actually coming off of his best game of his career, throwing for over 400 plus passing yards in that win against the Atlanta Falcons in week 11. And I believe also the Panthers defense is very underrated as well too. So they're playing great on both sides of the football in all phases, and they've really been an unlikely and unexpected team in terms of a success standpoint. So shout out to the Panthers. Another team that I believe is continuing to trim upwards, and I think that they're ultimately going to win a division, is the Baltimore Ravens at 17, as they're now at 500 being 5-5. I think ultimately, I mean, with Lamar Jackson being back, their defense continuing to get better mid-season, just like it did last year in 2024. I think that they're going to end up taking the reins over the Steelers in terms of the AFC North. I think that the Ravens, even though they started off slow, had a 1-5 record at one point, they've won 4 straight, and I think they're going to continue to trend upwards. So that's a really great thing for them, and their schedule isn't the most competitive for the stretch run, so that can make their way back and be favorable for them. At number 16, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had an absolute statement win over the Los Angeles Chargers at home in week 12, winning 35-6. They're a little bit lower just because I believe that Trevor Lawrence's inconsistency at the quarterback position is still very apparent, and he's not necessarily the biggest reason why they won that game, but their running game was balanced. Their defense still plays at a high level, so we have to give credit to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the job that Liam Cohen has overall done with the Jacksonville Jaguars, as right now they sit at a 6-4 record, being second in the AFC South, so shout out to them. At 15, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's very interesting because Aaron Rodgers, he has a small fracture in his left wrist, but he's still aiming to play, hopefully, for them in week 12 for the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Bears. We all know he has history with the Bears, saying that he owns them and stuff like that from his time in Green Bay. We'll see see how sharp he is to play in terms of that. But I mean, the Steelers, we all know that they're going to be a respected football team. None of us view them as a real legit championship or Super Bowl contender, but we'll see what happens. Like I just said, a couple of spots under them is the Baltimore Ravens, who I believe are ultimately going to inevitably take over them in the AFC North, but we'll see about that with the Steelers. They still come in at 15. At 14, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know they're 5-5 right now. They've looked average. They lost that game against the Broncos, stuff like that too. It's going to be a tough, really time for them to even try to get back into the AFC West race, which honestly, I mean, at this point, unless the Broncos have a huge collapse, they're going to probably win that division. But with that being said, though, I mean, a lot of people are saying, oh, the Chiefs, I mean, they better be careful. They might not make the playoffs. I think even as a wild card, it would still be huge threats. I mean, you just have to have that healthy respect and reverence of them because of what they've been able to achieve the past half decade plus with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, that tandem with Mahomes as a starter. But I mean, make no mistake, man. I mean, this offense has looked very inconsistent. They lack a running game for sure, especially with the inconsistency of Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt at times, and also the injuries that Pacheco has dealt with too. And alongside, coupled with that, their defense, who we know they have Steve Spagnuolo, who's one of the best defensive coordinators of all time, frankly. But at times, I mean, they let up some plays as well too. So right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they sit at 14. I believe they still can make the playoffs, and ultimately they probably still will. Now, winning the division, that's a different story, but I mean, they have to get things right for sure because this is not the team that we're used to, most definitely, but they still have a great shot to do well. So I wouldn't be too quick to count them out. At 13, right above them, I have the Los Angeles Chargers, who, yes, I know I have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just beat the Chargers handily a few spots under them. I believe the Chargers, I mean, them getting Omarion Hampton back, that's going to help, but ultimately they're going to be a team that's in the mix to be a wild card again, just like last year. And I believe that, I mean, the Joe Alt injuries, the Rashawn Slater injuries, the injuries on their offensive line is going to catch up to them too, but they still have a 6-4 record right now. They beat the Steelers a couple weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, so they still have some healthy doses, and really a huge reason why I still have them this high is because of their defense playing at a high level too. Let's see how they continue to trend. I mean, they're definitely a vulnerable football team right now, but I still believe they deserve to be in that top 15 range, and they come in at 13 on this. 12 though, a surprising team, man. We have the Chicago Bears, who are actually right now #1 in the NFC North with a 7-3 record. No one would have predicted going into this year that the Bears would have a 7-3 record heading into week 12, but here we are. And I mean, props to Ben Johnson doing a great job. He's for sure a Coach of the Year candidate. Caleb Williams has looked supremely improved under him, has looked way better in terms of just handling the game and managing the game, not creating his own chaos as much as he did last year. In his rookie year, his weapons like Rome Odunze has really popped out this year in flashes and moments. Their defense has been very opportunistic. I mean, they're not necessarily the greatest collectively, but they've been able to turn over the ball at a solid level. So that shouts out to them and the Bears. I mean, they're playing great right now, and they are #1 in the NFC North right now, but I still don't believe they're better than the Lions, and that's why I have right above them at the 11th spot, the Detroit Lions. And they've had a couple of bad losses. They lost to the Vikings in week 10, and they lost to the Eagles in week 11 when they only were able to score 9 points in that 16-9 loss against the Eagles. But even with that though, I mean, we know the type of talent that this team has offensively and defensively. This defense has really played great at a high level under first-year defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard. But I mean, we all know the book for Jared Goff at times, and I'm not saying that he's not a top 10 level quarterback in terms of his caliber, but when you get pressure to him, he's going to have performances like he did against the Philadelphia Eagles, only completing 14 out of his 37 passing attempts. So that's something that the Lions are going to have to continue to manage and be wise about. I mean, we know the plethora of weapons that they have: Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam Laporta right now being injured though is very underrated, and a lot of people talk about him from a pass catching standpoint, but even from a protection standpoint, you saw his absence be very apparent in that loss against the Eagles too. So that could be something to bite them, but I still believe that they're better than the Bears right now. We saw that full evidence early in the year as they dropped 50 points on them, and they'll play against them again soon. But the Lions, they still have a lot of issues right now, but I think that ultimately they come in at number 11, and the team right above them in that same division at number 10 is the Green Bay Packers. And I know the Chicago Bears, they're #1 in the division right now. They're 7-3, but I just can't put the Bears over the Lions and Packers right now ultimately. I know those teams have obviously been in the playoffs the past couple of years, and I just believe ultimately they're more talented and they have more experience in terms of a postseason standpoint. And I mean, the Green Bay Packers, they have certainly had their ups and downs this year for sure from an offensive standpoint, and even defensively in some performances as well too. But this is still a team that is 6-3-1 right now, and I believe they're going to be in the mix in terms of the playoffs. Whether they're a wild card or they end up winning the NFC North, I would still ultimately favor the Lions to win the NFC North. These teams are going to end up playing against each other a lot, and that's going to, kind of cannibalize some of them. But I mean, right now I still have the Green Bay Packers coming in at number 10 on the top 10. But getting more into the top 10 though, I have at the 9th spot the San Francisco 49ers. They had Brock Purdy return week 11, and he looked absolutely amazing, connecting with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle twice in the end zone, and he was just playing efficient football. He's completed 74% of his passes this year so far, even in the minimal starts that he's had. And Mac Jones really held things down for him when Brock Purdy was out too. And right now the 49ers, they have a 7-4 record. They're playing efficient football too, even in a division right now that's very crowded with the NFC West having the Rams playing at a high level and the Seattle Seahawks, even though the Seahawks lost by a couple of points against the Rams. That's a division right there that could ultimately end up cannibalizing themselves and only having 2 teams make the playoffs, which I believe would be the Rams and the Seahawks, but you never know. The 49ers are hanging in there and in the mix, even despite having injuries to 2 of their best defensive players players in Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. So right now, the 49ers come in at number 9. Now getting into the top 8. At the 8th spot, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've had a couple of losses the past couple of weeks, and they better be careful. They play against the Rams in week 12, and that's going to be a tough game for sure. The Carolina Panthers, like I said, they're right behind them. The Panthers and the Bucs have the same amount of wins right now. The difference is that the Bucs, they've already had their bye week. They have one less loss, so they're 6-4 compared to Carolina's 6-5. They need to get some wins together, and hopefully they're getting Bucky Irving back soon, so that'll be a welcome addition for sure. He's been out for a while now, but they don't want to sink too much because they've won the division 4 years in a row, and they're trying to make that 5, but the Panthers are trying to sneak up on them for sure. But I mean, I believe Baker Mayfield is still playing at a solid rate. Struggled a little bit against the Bills in that matchup in that loss in week 11, but I still believe that the Bucs are a top 10 level team right now. And now at 7, we have the team that actually just beat them in week 11 with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen had a really good game, accounted for 6 touchdowns, 3 rushing and 3 passing in that matchup against the Bucs. And I mean, the biggest flaw for the Bills right now, in my opinion, is their run defense and their lack of explosibility in terms of a passing standpoint, especially with Keon Coleman missing that game and right now Dalton Kincaid being injured. That's going to hurt them in ways, but I mean, Josh Allen makes up for a lot of flaws on his team too as well. So they still warrant that respect of being a top 7 to top 10 team in the NFL overall right now. And we'll see if they end up getting back into the mix in terms of winning their division in AFC East, because right now we know that the Patriots lead that, but I mean, you can't count out the Bills right now, and they're still a top team in the league. At 6, right above them though, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who, like I mentioned, they lost 19-21 against the Los Angeles Rams, but they still had a chance to win that game at the end, kicking a field goal, even though it was way off, a 60+ yard field goal. And that's even in the midst of Sam Darnold throwing 4 interceptions in that matchup too. So, I mean, it wasn't the greatest performance from the Seahawks collectively in terms of an offensive standpoint in that loss against the Rams, especially from a divisional standpoint. But with that though, I mean, they're still very competitive and they have one of the best defenses in the league. So there's still a lot of great things for them. And then getting into the top 5, we have the Denver Broncos coming in at 5. The only reason why I don't have them a few spots up is because I still don't trust their offense all the way. But with that being said, they played well against the Kansas City Chiefs, and we know their defense is one of the best, if not the best in the league. They lead the league in sacks again for a 2nd consecutive season. What their defensive coordinator Vance Joseph is able to do, dialing up different exotic looks defensively from a pressure standpoint, it's just a phenomenal thing, and they're doing it all without Pat Surtain right now too, which speaks wonders as well. So the Denver Broncos, they're a top 5 team right now. We'll see how they end up doing potentially in the postseason. Right above them though, we have the New England Patriots, who just like the Denver Broncos are on an 8-game winning streak. After starting 1-2, they're now 9-2, and Drake May is playing at a great level right now. Mike Vrabel is one of those coaches for sure in the Coach of the Year mix as well, and just love what they're doing on both sides of the football. Now, just like the Broncos though, for the Patriots, I'm not sure how they'll ultimately do in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team that is one and done or wins one playoff game and loses because they just like that experience. But regardless of that though, I mean, they deserve respect because what they've been able to do shouldn't be slighted at all. And the Patriots, they come in at number 4. Then at number 3 though, we have the Indianapolis Colts coming off of a bye week, but they still currently sit at a record of 8-2. Daniel Jones playing great this year. Jonathan Taylor being a legit MVP candidate. Shout out to them. How Shane Steichen, who also him and himself is another Coach of the Year candidate. They've just been playing really good complementary football for the entire season, and you know, they made an aggressive trade for Sauce Gardner right before the trade deadline. So we'll see what this team is ultimately able to do in the postseason. Just like alongside with the Patriots and the Broncos, I'm intrigued to see what the Colts will do potentially in the postseason from a lack of experience standpoint in that aspect, but they've been playing great this year. But getting into the top 2 though, at number 2 we have the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford continues to play at a high level. I believe that him alongside with Jonathan Taylor are the top 2 MVP candidates right now. And even though Matthew Stafford didn't play the greatest in that Seahawks game, it still didn't matter, and he's had a phenomenal season this year regardless of that. At the age of 37 years old, really just defying a lot and playing explosive football. Love how Matthew Stafford is playing, but also their defense being one of the best in the league from a defensive line standpoint, and their secondary is getting better as well too under defensive coordinator Chris Shula. So shout out to the job that Sean McVay is doing. The Rams come in at the 2nd spot, but right above them still though, I don't know how because their offense is not great at all, but the Philadelphia Eagles, they come in at number 1. They currently have an 8-2 record. They just find different ways to win. Like I mentioned, they had that Sunday Night Football win in week 11 over the Detroit Lions, only allowing the Lions, who have a top 3 offense in the league, to just 9 points in that game. Their defense is playing great under defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Jalen Phillips, who they traded for right before the trade deadline, making an instant impact as well. Their secondary playing great too. Even though their offense isn't playing at a high level right now, they still ultimately are the best team in the league. They have an intriguing matchup against the Dallas Cowboys in week 12, so we'll see where they're at there because the Dallas Cowboys are playing inspired football. But right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're still the best team in the league amidst of all their problems offensively. Well, guys, let me know in the comments down below, do you agree with my power rankings? This is the full list right here. Let me know what you disagree with. Like I say every single week though, it's a fluctuating type of criteria and it always changes ever so swiftly. And like I always say, I believe they're pretty accurate. But y'all let me know what y'all think about these power rankings heading into NFL Week 12. Make sure that you stay tuned for a lot of more content. Hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers and a lot more heat on the way. All glory to God always. Y'all keep being blessed. I love y'all. Keep Jesus Christ at the center of y'all lives. Y'all have great purpose and I love y'all. Make sure to check up on each other and love one another. Y'all have a good one. Peace.